deserves its own video. We're gonna do the other two, so I'm gonna put this one away. False advertising. I lure you in with a fantastic book, and then I bait and switch with a decently good book, and then Water Moon, which we'll talk about. So, I guess if we are going kind of in order, yeah, I would be doing Water Moon first, but Water Moon is currently out of the room, so we're doing This Is How You Lose the Time War, This Is How You Lose the Time War, This Is How You Lose the Time War by both Amal El-Motar and Max Gladstone. Max Gladstone. Which, as I understand it, is kind of a darling book of recent literature. This is a very artistic book, but in the way that, not in the way that Fifth Season is. And we'll talk about Fifth Season, because Fifth Season is, I believe, a masterpiece. This book is very good. Did it win an award? Book Club Favorites Reader's Guide? Possibly. Seditious and seductive, says Ken Liu. Oh. But, this book is, calling it more style than substance is really rude, but, there's substance here, absolutely, there definitely is, but the style is definitely the focus. So, as always, there's spoilers in this video. I'm gonna go through the entire thing because why not? But very honestly, there's not many spoilers to really go through, because I think the end result is very much, it's not expected. I didn't expect it to go where it did, but I wasn't shocked that it ended there. This book can end in one of two ways, and it ended in one of those ways, and there is a fair share of ambiguity to it as well, because this book obviously plays with time a lot. But I'll give you the back of the book, because the back of the book gives away more than I think should. I think as blind as you can go into this, that is how you should be going into it. You should be going into it not knowing a lot, because the more you know, the more it kind of ruins the premise a little bit. So really honestly, go into this book knowing as little as possible. But this one says, the back of the book says, in the ashes of a dying world, Red finds a letter marked burn before reading. So begins an unlikely correspondence between two rival agents in a war that stretches through the vast reaches of time and space. Red belongs to the agency, a post-singularity technotopia. Blue belongs to Garden, a single vast consciousness embedded in all organic matter. Their pasts are bloody and their futures mutually exclusive. They have nothing in common, save that they're the best, and they're alone. Now what began as a battlefield boast grows into a dangerous game. One both red and blue are determined to win, because winning's what you do in war, isn't it? A tour de force collaboration from two powerhouse raiders that spans the whole of time and space. Does this span the whole of time and space? Sorry, that was a bit loud, but that really is kind of the general impression. This book itself very, 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 very well. The concept is, I think, absolutely incredible. But when you get into the meat of this book, I find it shallow and I find that it underdelivers. Keep in mind, this book is ridiculously hyped. This book is very much I don't know if I would call it a TikTok book, because it's not necessarily like it's not some smash hit kind of popular. It's not like your insert cultural phenomena book here, like Yaros. Shit. Fourth Wing. This is not hyped to that point, and I believe that this is a far better book than anything Rebecca Yaros has written in a good while. But it's just it just slightly underdelivers for me. For me, I can see exactly what people see in this though. Because there were points in time when I was having a very high degree of fun with this. This book is billed as a little bit of a sapphic romance, and there is romance in there, although I think this book would have been stronger if it was just two female agents who just so happen to enjoy the company of other women. Kind of like trying to one-up each other. I think that would have been a more interesting read, honestly. I kind of enjoy that it ended in love-ish, but I honestly, I think that this should have been a book about, like, lesbian friendship rather than, like, love. Not that it can't be about women loving women, it's just kind of like, I don't know, I don't feel like the chemistry is, the way that the book is structured, I don't feel like the chemistry can really show through. At one point, they're like, oh, I'm a way better agent than you. Oh my god, did you see what I did there? Did you see that assassination that I pulled off? Wasn't that so, like, fucking hard for you to witness? Because it was such a stroke of genius. And then the next letter is like, I can't help but love you, and I'm gonna betray everything I ever fucking knew just to destroy myself for you. And it's like, holy shit, what? Like, like I said, I am not against women enjoying the company of other women. I love a good sapphic romance. I honestly think that they are usually more compelling than male loving male. What's the male version of sapphic? I guess like Achilles and Patroclus. Achillean. That might. I think I've actually heard that before. Now that I think about it, but anyway, I just think that this would have gone over better if it was just literally a story about time travel and war. A war across time, that kind of thing. Not time travel and war, but you get what I'm saying. If you've read this before, especially, you get what I'm saying. But basically, red and blue are these two diametrically opposed agents. They are committed to kind of undoing each other's work. And what do I mean by that? This time war, the titular war, is not being actually fought. What is happening is that the agency and Garden, these two diametrically opposed institutions, I guess, are bent on destroying the circumstances in which they were founded across time. So this book is very much the butterfly effect. Like if a butterfly flaps its wings in Brazil, does that set off a chain of air currents that causes a tornado in Oklahoma? That kind of thing. The idea here is that red is sent to a certain time period in order to assassinate one person who would have gone on to do work that would have gone on to inspire somebody else to do this thing, which would lead to that thing, which would lead to the founding of Garden, which would lead to the destruction of the agency. That's the general premise. At some point, one of them is hanging out with Genghis Khan and doing like a whole bunch of stuff there, and then eventually the pattern of events that was set in motion would have been the thing that led to the death of the person who ended up inventing the technology that could create the agency, I should say. So that's the idea. It's like if you went back in time and killed somebody, what would change? Like if you went back in time and killed Julius Caesar in his infancy, what would have changed? Would that have changed anything about history? Or would it have changed everything? Who knows? That's the point. And these agents that are working for each of these institutions are constantly going into different time threads, is what they're called. So like they're skipping into these different timelines that are called threads in order to thwart each other. And Red is the absolute best at like this really ruthless version of it. And Blue is really good at playing the long game. Essentially, Blue is creating like all of these circumstances and scenarios where eventually it'll lead to payoff. It seems as though agency is all about results, and it seems as though the Garden is all about the long game. So it's like they're trying to play off of each other. Which one has the better vision, kind of thing. And so you need to read this book twice, I would say, probably to fully understand it, because there are just some elements that are like there's the Seeker, for example, and you're just like, that was random. Why? And then it does have a payoff at the very end of the book, but then you're like, oh, okay, makes sense, I guess. But it doesn't add, it's not like this twist where it like provides a completely different framework for how to think about the narrative. It's literally just like, oh, that's why that was written there. And that's kind of the end of it. It's a good twist. I think it's executed very well. But I don't think that it's like this. It changes your full perspective, and everything makes so much more sense. And like your first read really feels like this, and then your second read really feels like that. It's just sort of like, oh, so that part of it makes sense now, because literally in every chapter there's this Seeker, and you're like, okay, like what is that? Is that meant to be like, is someone following them, or what's going on? Yes and no, but the context kind of just makes it like, oh yeah, Red was following herself all the whole time. Cool. So I think that's what it is. I don't think that this premise was necessarily executed to its fullest potential. I would have liked to see a redraft where this thing probably has about 100 more pages. That would not include the love plot, though. I would also take out the love plot, and like I said, I would just have it be two rival agents trying to thwart each other, because I think that is infinitely more interesting than this sort of betrayal of everything that they hold dear kind of thing. I think that this novel could have been a lot more ideological about something that is sort of very in vogue today, like the idea of like AI versus natural sort of technologies or natural solutions, versus very industrial, very AI based, very just like profit motivated kind of things. I think that there's a lot to say about that in this book, and it goes unsaid. I think it could have been way more philosophical, but I think what it does say about love is kind of shallow. Like I said, at some point it's just like, oh, and they're in love. Like, literally, one of them would die for love. One of them drinks poison for love. Or takes poison, I should say, for love. Okay. I guess. And there's like this idea of either both of them are betraying their own institutions that they work for, but really it's only Red who's betraying her own institution, because it seems as though this was Blue's plan all along, to kind of like lure Red away from the agency and to rob the agency of their best asset. But to what end? Again, like I don't see a world in which Garden doesn't win this, because they just have a way better philosophy. They have a way better way of doing it. The agency is fighting a losing war because they're not fighting it properly, because Garden has too much foresight. That's literally the thing. And I think the agency is way too caught up in its own politics and things like that to really effectively fight back. Now, are we told this? No. Did what the content of this book did the content of this book give me that idea? Yes. I think that this book becomes stronger if you think about it. I think this book becomes stronger if you analyze it, because there was no point in time which it was ever stated that the agency or the Garden has the upper hand, or that one of them does what they do better than the other one. But inference is sort of the necessity of this book. You need to be constantly thinking, alright, it seems based on what I'm reading here that the agency is really just trying to, they're slashing their swords at a tsunami kind of thing. It's working so far, but eventually they're going to get washed away. It's like, or I guess a more fitting metaphor for this book, they are trying to hack away at the jungle, but the jungle is growing too fast, and it's eventually going to engulf the agency. Like I said, that was not told. I was able to infer that. Whether or not that's what I'm supposed to infer, I don't know, but I don't think art works like that, really. I think because I took that away from the story, that's valid, and I think that makes this a very good book. There is not a lot of showing or telling, and that did leave me hungry, but that's just because I'm also the kind of reader who does not like a ton of questions being left. I don't. Some people absolutely do. That's why I think this book is on some people's top 10 list, because it does leave so many questions and it leaves so many things up to you. But for me, the style of reader that I am, I like my loose ends tied up. But I'm of course able to try to tie up those loose ends myself, and I've done that, I think, for the majority of the book. This book is a lot of fun. Red and Blue start out as mortal enemies. They're kind of one-upping each other. They're getting after each other. They're being very cheeky. And then they fall in love. And then Blue dies. And then Red kind of tears herself apart, trying to undo that process. And, it's I like this book. I don't love it, because it does so many things right, and there are some things that I feel are lacking. Now, I don't know where my rating scale really is at, but this book, I would probably put this book at a 75 out of 100. If When Among Crows is probably at about like a 70 compared to that. Watermoon is at like a 60, 55. Yeah, and then like Curious Tides is at like like a 20. That's mean. And then, oh, that Dungeons and Dragons book that I read. What was it called? Oh God, I don't know what it was called, but it was bad. That's like a 10 or a 5. But anyway, this book, solid. This is a good read. Now, that's kind of plot and content. Oh, the other thing that I really would have liked more out of this book is if this book leaned more into, like I said, this book could use an extra 100 pages just to dive more into, like, I want to hear about this idea of an agent embedding herself in a certain time period and having to live in that time period in order to set, like, events in motion so that, like, they can, like, so that the Roman Empire collapses. I'm going a lot for Rome. So that the Roman Empire collapses like 200 years earlier, and like seeing what that does, or like making sure that Atlantis never sinks into the sea, and seeing what kind of like wacky, crazy outcomes that would sort of set into motion. Like, I think there needed to be more of that. I want to hear more about what Blue was doing with the Mongol army. I want to hear more about who Red was assassinating. Like, give me more meat. I want to have more. But again, I don't think that's the story that they're trying to tell. And maybe it's just not a story that I necessarily wanted to read, and that's perfectly fine. Where I think this book shines is the writing. Absolutely. So the structure of this book, I'll just show you, is so you see there's this chapter that starts and it's like narration, and it's like London next, the same day, month, year, but one strand over is the kind of London other London's dream. Sepia tinted sepia tinted skies strung with dirigibles. The viscousness of empire acknowledged only as a rosy backdrop glow, redolent of spice and metalled sugar. Then, once the narration is done, then it comes in the form of letters that Red and Blue are writing to each other. So it says, "Dearest 0000FF, common cause on Atlantis. Who would have thought? I suppose no threats one thing. They train us, full confident in that knowledge. Each has facets, hooks, barbs, useful in different ways depending on articulation. The novice believes a single change will make a thread thus or thus. An event, an invasion, or a spasm, or a sigh is like a hammer, one side blunt and perfect for driving nails, the other clawed to pry them free. And, like hammers, you store Atlantises out of sight. When not in use, stick them in a drawer somewhere safe till the next need comes around." Those letters are written so gorgeously. The writing in this book makes me think that, like, honestly, if we're talking about plot, we're talking about a 70. If we are talking about, like, writing, this thing shoots way up to like an 85. This writing is so good. Each different character has a different voice. Blue is written by Amal El-Motar, and Red is written by Max Gladstone. Both of them have an immediate personality in their writing. Both of them have an immediate point of view that you can really pick up on. If you didn't know who was being written about, if the chapters weren't alternating every single time, you would be able to figure out, oh, this is a Blue chapter, this is a letter from Blue, just based on the writing style, which I think is a triumph. I think that for this sort of play on novel structure, rather than just like regular old chapters, I think that it works very, very well. But like I said, the plot is where I find the most stuff lacking, but that's just me. I think that this is a very opinion-based book. I think that if you are the kind of person who likes to read very flowery writing, very well done writing, very writing that really like leads you through a page, like that paragraph that I read to you was like a good someone at the agency, tell me about the life of someone in garden, and then like make it this real, like, we hate them, we like, you know, but then make it into this like, but I saw the work of that person who works for garden, and they're really fighting for something beautiful. Like, really tell the story of the ideologies, because I think I know the ideologies of each of these, and I think that's the goal of the authors, for me to read a little bit of myself into it. But I really want to see what these authors think. Also, I really want them to give me unique perspectives, like put me in the shoes of like, why is this person needing to be assassinated? Why has, like, in the politics of the agency, why was Red sent to assassinate this person when she was like starting to lose the trust of the agency and all that kind of stuff? Give me more. I want more. I want more. And if that's my biggest criticism of this novel, I think you can see that it's pretty good. I think I was more negative than this book deserves throughout this, but I think I also am right to want more from it, because I think that these authors have more in their system. It's great. Go read it. It's a very easy read. It takes you about a week. It took me a week. I'm sure that you could probably get through it in a couple of sittings if you're really like, if you've got a weekend, I'm sure that you could get through it. It reads easy. It's fun. It's a unique concept. The love is the weakest part of it, I think, but that might just be me. Some people might find something really compelling about it, and I love that. I would say I am happy to have read this book, and you will be happy to read this book as well. I am going to get up, I'm going to find Watermoon, and then we're going to talk about Watermoon, which will go quicker, and it will be a little bit more negative. I'm sorry. So, this is Watermoon by Samantha Soto Yambao. You've seen this book before, because did I do an Indigo haul at one point? I can't remember, but anyway, I know I did tapping on it, because listen to that. And then also just look at this cover, like, isn't that just gorgeous? Like, look at that. It's wonderful. I'm happy I bought this book. This is another book where I'm happy I read it. I just killed a fly. Oh my god. Give me 1 second. You're all witnessing me really try to fight my fungus gnat infestation. But what I was going to say is that this book, I am happy that I've read it. I think that this is a good book. I think that this is actually, I should say, I think that this is a competent book. This shines everywhere where This Is How You Lose the Time War kind of didn't. I think This Is How You Lose the Time War shines way brighter than Watermoon, but I think Watermoon stands on its own very, very well. I think that it's a very cute book. I think that this book is very cozy while also still being, it has good stakes, it's got good drama. Was that another fungus gnat? It better not have been. No, it wasn't. Okay, good. It was just a tickle. Oh my god. Terrifying. What was I saying? Crap. Oh, this book, I think, is just a little bit weaker. I think because of the characters, but not really. Like, okay, let's get into it. Again, full spoilers for this one, but essentially, there is this pawn shop. That exists within the dream realm, kind of. is sort of like loosely tethered to the actual real reality. And I think that this book shines in its world building. This is an intensely fleshed out world. It is great. You really live within this world. And that is what I think is the absolute best. I think the writing needs a little bit of work, but I also think the chemistry between the two main characters needs a little bit of work. But I think that this book on the whole is successful at what it does. I think giving it a 55 is more a personal rating. If I were trying to be a little bit more objective, I would probably settle this book at about like a 60 or 60. That being said, I don't think that that's a bad grade by any means. This book, like I said, centers around the proprietor of a pawn shop who sort of like pawns away pivotal moments of change within your life in order to like get rid of that regret. And the big kind of reveal, and this is where we get into spoilers, is that this pawn shop kind of powers the entire dreamland. The idea behind the separation between worlds is that our world, so like real human life, is miserable, it's awful, it's cruel, it's violent, it's really like, it's set in Japan, so I think that there is definitely this idea of human nature being inherently destructive because there's Nazi imagery invoked. There is atomic bomb imagery invoked in order to paint free choice as this like you shouldn't be free choice just leads to misery. And then the dream world is very dreamy. It works like a very well-oiled clock. It makes a very, very, very good case for this deterministic worldview. And it's even down to the fact that the stuff that is pawned at the pawn shop goes to this tattooist who tattoos your entire life story all over your body. And that's just how your life is going to be. And there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it, but everything runs smoothly. So, who can blame him? And eventually, of course, the novel goes in the direction of like free will being the best one, but it does give you some interesting things to think about regarding like this idea of determinism versus individualism. Is it better to have your fate determined for you, or is the sort of risk that comes with freedom of choice worth taking? Are all of these sort of things worth trading in for free will? Or are you willing to trade in your free will in order to get some safety and stability? I think that you could definitely read this as a commentary on liberalism and conservatism and the drawbacks of both. I think that you could take this easily as a treatise on kind of like the critiques of a world in which freedom of choice is taken to such extremes. Do I think that sometimes sometimes Hannah's like disbelief at the real world is a little bit like, oh yeah, fish out of water character, classic. Yes, I do. But I think it works if it is a little bit heavy-handed, but that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. But basically, this idea here woken up one day, the day that she's supposed to take over the pawn shop, and her father has set one of the pawned choices free. You're not supposed to do that because it throws off all of this like determinism within the dream world. If one of those choices is set free, that leaves one person in the dream world without their tattoo ink, and it completely throws their life off. It does not end well. It is a very cruel world. And then the same day that it looks like this robbery has taken place, almost her father has staged it as such. But this same day, Keishin comes in, and he says, "Oh wait, I was looking for the ramen place. Instead, I found this pawn shop. Why?" And he agrees to help Hannah find her father and whoever committed this robbery, even though it was her father who staged it. And it's pretty clear from the beginning that's not much of a twist. The twist more so revolves around Hannah's mother and sort of how the world works, how the dream world works. And Hannah and Keishin need to travel all around this dream world, avoiding the sort of the keepers of this world, in order to find her father and kind of figure out what the hell is going on, so that she can get this final choice back, so that she doesn't get brutally mutilated by these people, the keepers of the sort of the realm, I guess, the dream realm. That's sort of the threat that she's under, and Keishin agrees to help her out. And he is like a human from the real world, so he's a fish out of water. So he gets to experience the dream world with fresh eyes like we do, and then Hannah gets to learn a little bit more about the real world as well. So long story short, they travel to all of these places which are so beautifully fleshed out and so beautifully written and so beautifully set up. This dream world is so poetic, it's gorgeous, it's storybook-esque, it's great. The world building here is just it's taken to a 10, and then the throttle is pushed even further. I think it's great. The obvious bit is that Keishin and Hannah are going to get in the hots for each other, and I think that is also unnecessary. I think that we could really have this book be about a platonic male and female friendship. It wouldn't have necessarily maybe the same, it wouldn't have the same impact, I know that for sure, but the chemistry between the two, no. These two are not meant for each other. Keishin is a little bit too much of a introverted nerd, kind of, which is not a bad thing, obviously. That kind of describes me, although I'm trying to be more social lately. He's just not, he's not interesting. He's not, other than what his backstory is that we end up finding out. He's just, incredibly smart and kind of incredulous. He's this, he's essentially a quantum physicist, and he, in the real world, is on an assignment at this lab in Japan trying to detect neutrinos. So he is intensely smart, and this dream world kind of bounces in between, it bends space, they jump into puddles and then they end up in completely different places. Time doesn't work the same way that it does in the real world, and that kind of confuses him because he's this big quantum scientist guy, quantum physicist, and it does lead to a lot of moments of oh, this is impossible. What are you saying? And then it leads to a lot of Hannah being why do you need an explanation for everything? Which is kind of a cute dynamic, but that's really all their dynamic is. They begin to understand each other a lot more, but there's also a lot of like unnecessary secret keeping. Like it's like, oh, why didn't you tell me that you were actually just dragging me along on this journey because you were afraid of what you would find at the end of it? It's like, if we had this conversation before it was like randomly revealed, we wouldn't be having this drama right now, and we wouldn't be having this like, well, will they end up liking each other in the end, or will they end up going their separate ways because they're just too annoyed with each other? And I think that's where this would have been much better if this was a book about building a very strong bond of friendship through a wacky little journey through this beautiful dreamscape. But it has to be about love, and then there's some incredibly awkward kisses and some incredibly awkward longing looks. And then Hannah has this man who is like, she's been promised to, like, through the tattoo, it's destined that the two of them end up falling in love. And he's an origami folder, but then like she develops a love for Keishan, and then this like origami guy is a little bit like, they like, the book kind of cuckolds him, for lack of a better term, and he's like clearly a better choice for Hannah, but Hannah is held up on Keishan because he's like this mysterious smart guy. It's just like the chemistry is not there, and I don't know, maybe I just don't read chemistry in the same way as other people because of the asexual thing. I'm not using that as an excuse, but I read what, like, the pairing has gratuitous sex in it. Like, not gratuitous, it has copious amounts of sex in it, and it was to the point where I was like, you know, maybe this is more for me than I thought it was. Legitimately. And the chemistry in this book was just like, oh, I don't want these two to end up together. I want them to end up being great friends. I just do not want them together. Like, the kisses are the really bad part. Where it's just like, no, don't, ew. Like, kiss a couple of times and then just realize you're better off friends, you know? We don't have enough books like that. Not everything has to be like this happy romantic ending. Sometimes it's just like, you know what? We're great friends. Cool. But I get why the novel does it, because it's really a break from what the dream world has set out for Hannah, and it is her symbolically breaking free of the bounds of this world that is the only world she's ever known. This is another book where I feel like I would kind of just like another story from this dream realm, where like somebody goes on this fabulous sort of, it's almost Studio Ghibli kind of esque adventure. If you're really into something like that, go for it. This is the book for you. I would say pick this book up. It's not bad. It is sort of very readable. It is fun. I read it quite quickly, probably in the span of about a week as well, and it was just like, it was fun. I think it's a really good read. Like, if you're going on a road trip, it can really pass the time because it really takes you somewhere. It is in no way sort of like a downer or anything like that. It's just like this fun romp, and you're like, what's gonna happen? You end up finding out that there's some really dark truths behind this, and Hannah's mom is in this really sad, like, imprisonment for a transgression of her own, and her dad is really trying to save her, and out of this book. Maybe I bump it up to a 65, and then maybe I bump This Is How You Lose the Time War to like a 75 to an 80. Yeah, the rating scale really isn't going to work. And then When Among Crows is kind of like at our 75, I guess. But anyway, this is just me sort of like rambling at this point. I think I've said all that I want to say about these two books. Like I said, they both kind of mirror each other in that I wish there was more world from This Is How You Lose the Time War. And the writing is fantastic. And then in Water Moon, the writing is a little bit less great, and the chemistry between the characters is not great. But the world building is like far and away incredible. It's awesome. This dream world is just it's gorgeous. I'm happy that I got to be a part of it for as long as I did. Like I was so happy that I read this book. But is it something that I would read again? No. Is it something that I would rave over? No. But again, it's kind of like When Among Crows. We need middle of the shelf books